Hey guys, welcome to another Davinci Resolve tutorial, and in this video I'm going to be talking about some of the new features inside of Davinci Resolve 17. Now Davinci Resolve 17 has over 100 new features and over 200 improvements, so there is a lot to go over. I'm not going to go over all of them, I'm just going to be choosing about 17 of my favorite ones and some that I know I'm going to be using fairly regularly when I edit for clients. Before I show you these new features, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell to stay notified for my next uploads. I also post a lot of behind the scenes content of the projects that I'm working on my Facebook and Instagram, so definitely follow me on there if you're interested in keeping up to date with some of the stuff that I'm working on. I know I'm late to creating this video about Davinci Resolve 17 with the public beta version. Resolve has been out for a couple of months now, but since it's the beta version there are some glitches and every now and then it will crash and freeze. So I recommend if you're working on any important projects like I was, to maybe just hold off until the full release comes out or download it at your own risk, because there is a possibility that you may lose some of your projects. I'm using the studio version, but if you are using the free version, you can still follow along. Before I show you Resolve and start going over some of the features, I just wanted to tell you about one of the exciting new features for the free version. You can now use the multi-user collaboration feature, which now means you can work with other editors, colorists, visual effects artists, sound designers, and motion graphics designers working in the same project, which is a great new feature for the free version because a lot of people these days are working from home. Let's open up Resolve and let's look over these new features. I've just loaded a few clips into the timeline ready to go. When you first look at Davinci Resolve 17, you'll notice that it pretty much looks the same. You've got your media, cut, edit, fusion, color, fairlight, and deliver tabs at the bottom. There has been some pretty nice improvements. So when I go to the media pool, so when I select a clip in the media pool, I'm just going to find one. Let's say we want to select this clip. We'll just do our in and out points about there. And let's go over to the inspector tab, and let's say we want to readjust our framing because maybe there's too much headroom at the top. We can just zoom in and readjust our frame. So let's just say we want that. We can actually click and drag it into our timeline, and the changes that we just made will show up in our timeline as well. That's a really nice feature because sometimes when I edit, I like to just go through my media pool and just play back some of the clips that I'm going to be working with, being able to just go in there and quickly adjust some things and drag it in and have the exact same settings when we put it into the timeline. You'd also notice that the inspector tab has gotten a bit of a facelift. We've pretty much had the video, audio, and effects, but now we've also got transitions, image, and file. So if we go to file, we can check our metadata, so we can find out our frame rate, our resolution, and all of that sort of information. And also if you are shooting in Blackmagic Raw, like I have, go to image and you can play around with your Blackmagic Raw settings. Now before, you actually had to go into the color tab and adjust your Blackmagic Raw settings there. Now you can do it in the editing tab, so that's really nice, being able to adjust exposures and do a quick LUT as well, and yeah, just change your ISO settings. Now before I show you more features inside the edit tab, I'm going to show you a really nice feature in the cut tab. So I generally don't use the cut tab, mainly because I just prefer using the edit tab, but there's a really nice feature in here that I know will make me jump between the two when I'm editing. So the new feature is called Smart Reframe. So this is a nice feature, especially if you're delivering video content for clients that want not just the standard 16:9 ratio. Sometimes they want the 1:1 ratio or 9:16. The 1:1 ratio is mainly for like Instagram and Facebook. 9:16 could be for TikTok, your Instagram stories, and all of that sort of stuff. So let's get our safe area up. Let's choose 9:16, and by default, if we look at the 9:16 ratio and we play it back, you can see that the camera moves and our subject is not going to be within the frame guides here. So Let's just go over to here. So timeline resolution, now you can change the timeline resolution from here. So let's go to portrait. So we're just going to do a basic zoom in. We would probably have to animate this smart reframe feature. All we have to do is go to the inspector tab and go to smart reframe, and it will automatically analyze the clip and it will reframe it for you. So now let's play it back, and we can see over here it's adjusting keyframes. Another update in the cut tab is metadata view, so you can see your footage and the metadata before you put it into your timeline. So that's a really nice feature, but again, I don't really use the cut page often, so I'm probably not going to be using that, but I definitely will be using the smart reframe. So now I'm in the edit tab, and I'm just going to go over some of the features inside of the edit tab. And I'm just going to go over to here, and now you can do multicam editing in your timeline. So before, you actually had to create a new bin, a new timeline for multicam clips. Now you don't have to do that. You can simply find your clips and drag and drop it into your timeline. And I just shot something a little bit earlier, and if I play it back, it's definitely out of sync. So it's definitely not synced. So there's a quick way you can do that now. So you can just select all of them, right click, and we'll go over to auto align clips, and we'll just go over to based on waveform, and we're just going to click that, and it's going to analyze it. And now all of our clips are in sync, so I can just turn off audio 1. So yeah, that's a really cool way to sync your footage inside of Resolve. I'm just going to go over to the effects library. Now this has changed a fair bit. I really like this new update. When you go into effects and open effects, you actually get to preview the effects. So before, you kind of had to throw the effects onto your clips and kind of see if that's the sort of effect that you wanted. Now you can just hover over each effect, and it will give you a little preview of what each effect will do. They've added some new things in here. So a lot of these effects have been here already, but they have improved those effects to work better and much more smoothly when it comes to putting them onto your clips. So in Davinci Resolve 16, if you wanted to denoise your footage, you'd actually have to go into the color tab and create some nodes and denoise it that way. Now you can just throw this into your timeline, especially if you're using like GH4 footage or Canon footage, and you've got a nice color profile on your footage ready to go, and there is a bit of noise. You can just put the noise reduction filter on it and adjust the parameters, and you'll be able to get rid of the noise. So that's a nice feature. I feel like they've added a lot of these fusion effects and these new effects that were from color into the edit tab, because it's just going to make a lot of people's editing much more quicker and smoother, and it just saves you from having to jump between different tabs for a few common things that you'd probably be using. Another new feature that they've added inside of the edit tab is being able to do green screen keying within the edit tab. Before, you actually had to go into Fusion, or you could go into the color tab and do green screen stuff there. So now they've added the Resolve FX key, and they've got the 3D keyer, so I can now click and drag it onto our green screen footage. I'm just going to zoom in. I'm going to select this clip, and I'm going to go over to effects, because that's where our effects will live. You've got open effects and fusion effects. We want to make sure that the pick is selected, and it's really easy to do. You just click. Sorry, you want to go down to here and choose open effects overlay, and then click and drag, and it's going to create like this paint stroke. That's basically telling the 3D keyer that there's multiple shades of green, and it's going to give you an overall look. Now that's looking pretty good, but we can finesse it here a bit as well. Cool, so that's actually looking really good. You'll notice that there's a bit of green spill on him. Now it's really easy to get rid of that. You just simply check the D spill, and you'll get a nice key. So if we just drag and drop a clip ready to go underneath, you'll see that we've got a fairly clean green screen. Also in the effects library, there are some new fusion effects that they've added, which actually look really cool. So again, you can hover over them. We get the binoculars effect. Whoops. We'll select our clip that we want. We'll get the binoculars effect. CCTV, got colored border, digital glitch. Another thing that they've added while my computer loads is the ability for third-party developers to come in and create third-party plugins and motion graphic stuff, and being able to just import it into Davinci Resolve and have it as a template ready to go. So they've made it more user-friendly and easier to create these sort of templates for people. So that's also another great feature as well. So you've got DVE, night vision effect, video call effect, and you've got video camera effect, which is your overlay VHS sort of look. It's pretty standard, but it's very nice. Of course, these are all customizable, so once you've added these effects onto your clips, you can go in there and adjust pretty much every single parameter of each effect. They've also updated the titles as well. So there are some titles that were there in Davinci Resolve 16, and they've also created some new ones as well. So that's really nice as well. We've got call outs. You've got like nice clean sort of lower thirds, which will come in handy because there were only like a few nice lower third titles in the previous version. So that's going to be nice to play around with in future videos. There's been quite a few updates in the Fusion tab as well. One of the main ones that I really like that they've decided to add in Fusion is, I'm just going to import this clip here, go into Fusion, and now when you go inside of Fusion, they've decided to update it and give you audio inside of Fusion, which is great, especially if you're doing motion graphics where you've got to animate to the beat of a song. You can now go into keyframes, and when we go to the drop down menu for media input 1, we've got audio left and audio right, so we'll just play it back, and you can see it's updating the audio waveform. So now when you go and animate, you can easily sync it up and be able to listen to playback. Then now I'm just going to go to the color tab, and there are heaps of new features just in the color tab alone. So let's just quickly go over them. So the main updates are your primary wheels. So yeah, we'll just look at the primary wheels before I show you the brand new sort of wheels that we've got in here. So the primary wheels, there was a little button at the bottom left here, 1 and 2, and that would just toggle between setting these two settings, but now they've got them all displayed at the top and bottom instead of just at the bottom. So that's really nice as well. They look a little bit different too. They've definitely changed the design a little bit, like a little bit of the graphics. So that's really nice as well. Now we've got HDR wheels, so this is a little bit different, but you've got more controls in your primary wheels in the shadows, midtones, and highlights, and you can even adjust the range as well. So you can go to the zones graph, and you can adjust the zones, so you can tweak the blacks, the dark shadows, lights, highlights, and speculars differently as well. We've also got Color Warper. The Color Warper is a nice new addition to the color page, and now you can select whichever color you want. So I'm going to choose this sort of pink or red color, and I'm going to click. It's just dragging the point around, so you can pull it in and you can desaturate it. You've got different things down here. You got HSP, log, HSL. I prefer to use HSL. You can desaturate it and just really tweak it around. Go to 12. You can really just pull things around, and you get like a nice sort of roll off. So the next new feature that I want to show you is the magic mask. Now this is a really nice feature. It almost reminds me of the rotor brush inside of After Effects. So once you go into the magic mask, you can just select the person, and let's toggle our mask overlay so we can see what we've selected. clicking Alt, and I'm just tidying up the mask a little bit. Oops. Cool, so that's looking pretty good. And I'm just going to track it. I'm just going to zoom in. So as you can see, it's trying to find where our subject is. And let's just stop that for now. Pause that. We'll just have a quick playback of this. Turn the mask overlay off. It's almost like a power window, but a much more detailed and advanced power window. So yeah, so that's really cool. And another change they've added is the scopes. So they've added a new scope, the CIE chromaticity. I can't pronounce it, I'm really sorry. But you can see, let's just make this a bit bigger. You can see the Rec 709 space, color space is here. And then Davinci Resolve has a new color gamut space that you can work in, which is actually bigger than the Ace's color profile. So that's a nice flex on Davinci's part. So let's just check this setting. Let's go to project settings, color management, and then by default our color science is Davinci YRGB, which is pretty good. And then you've got your Aces, and then you've got a new one called Davinci color managed. So we'll click that, and then we can change it to the new Davinci wide gamut. And basically it gives you a little description underneath. So an extra wide gamut log grading environment suitable for SDR and HDR deliverables, preserves maximum image fidelity and high detail up to 10,000 nits. And it's going to change your color space. Instead of rendering out the project for somebody else to work on, you can render out specific timelines. So if you have multiple timelines allocated in a project, you can just export that timeline. So I'm just going to right click, go to timelines, we'll go to export, and we'll go to Davinci Resolve timeline files. That's a new thing. So you can just save the timeline separately, and somebody else that's editing can open up these timelines into their Resolve project and just edit the timeline. So there's a lot of new features inside of the Fairlight tab. Now I don't really use Fairlight for a lot of my work, mainly because I'm just doing basic editing in the edit tab and cutting to the beats of music. So I just tend to not use Fairlight, but there are some updates, and I am looking into doing more work inside of Fairlight. But now I believe you can have up to 2,000 audio tracks, which is insane. So you can really layer your different sounds for sound design and mixing. So that's really nice to have. I'm going to be putting a link in the description below so you can see some of the new features on the Blackmagic Design website. Anyway, that's the new features inside of Davinci Resolve 17. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell to stay notified for my next videos. And I'll see you guys next time.